we are humans, and that rawness is and that vulnerability is really what helps us to see each other, I think, and to be able to
Mhm.
understand each other. Because when I see your realness, I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, now I can be real too.
Welcome to the Kindness Podcast. I'm Nicole Phillips. Today's conversation is with Asha Miller. Asha is a breast cancer survivor. She's a vitiligo advocate, and she is the kind of person who tells the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Diagnosed with stage 3B aggressive breast cancer at the age of 33, she didn't just survive, she rebuilt her life around honesty and community and what it means to fully live in the body that you have now. She's the founder of Asha Miller Creative and the voice behind Dear Cancer, It's Me, where she creates space for real conversations about identity, healing, faith, visible difference, and reclaiming your voice. Please welcome Asha Miller. Hi, Asha. It's so great to see you again.
It's so good to see you. Thank you for having me.
I'll back everybody up to bring them in on our conversation. I got to meet Asha when I spoke at a breast cancer symposium at Ohio State, which is where I was treated for breast cancer. And also, Asha, you were treated there as
Ah,
well, right?
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So then you introduced me to a group called the Breasties, which is very fun. But you're like a person's story doesn't just stop when you meet him. It continues to grow and go,
Nice.
and good ways and in bad ways and in upside down ways. So for someone meeting you for the first time, knowing that you are very multifaceted, can you describe kind of your mission, your work today?
Yeah. So I always have to laugh when people ask me that because I'm like, well, are you ready? Let me take a
Yeah.
deep breath. So I do a variety of things, but I start with my North Star. Mine is my children. I call them my two reasons, the fuel of my
Mhm.
future. And so everything I do is very intentional. It may seem like so many different avenues, but they're really all because of one thing. I want the world better, healthier, and less dying. I want less dying for
Yeah.
especially within the breast cancer world, but across the board in the cancer world. I want less dying specifically within the Black and Brown community because we are just dying so much more than our white counterparts. And so I am on medical research teams. I also on university advisory boards, and then I do content creating and speaking, of course, on my Instagram. I started out my Instagram writing because that is my love. My first love is
Mm.
writing. I was that little immigrant girl with a notebook going, I do a rhyme all the time. And
Oh.
so whenever I get to write and then whenever I get to speak out of my writing, that really is such a joy. I tell myself and I tell others that I can't call myself a motivational, inspirational speaker because I feel like that's a presumptuous for me to think I'm going to motivate or inspire everyone, but I can tell my story in hopes
Yeah.
that people can feel less alone. And if that inspires and motivates you, I'm so excited, but my purpose for people to feel seen and heard and to feel less alone. So
Yeah.
creating spaces like the Breast Event Ever, which I do in Columbus, Ohio for breast cancer patient advocates, or the brunch ever, or the breast galentines ever. So I do a lot of events here in Columbus, and do writing, speaking, and yeah. So
The thing about your Instagram that's really fun is that you show up and immediately anyone who is tuning in is like, "Oh, that's my friend Asha." Right? Like it's not like that's that lady on the other side of the screen. Like that's my friend.
Mm,
Is that
that's
intentional?
yeah,
Is it just part of your
yeah.
personality?
For me, it is intentional. I feel like social media is so curated sometimes to show either really perfectly, pictures of whether it's our bodies or our kitchens or our homes, or if it's real, it's like um I feel like it's still a curated reel. Like, I'm here,
Yeah.
like, here's me in my bonnet, because I have to wear it with my curly hair. And I'm talking to you on my bed, or I'm talking to you while I'm driving. I'm sitting in the pickup line for my kids because I do wanna feel like, "Hey, I am, like, one of your breast friends,
Mhm.
and we are in this together," because so many times, especially when you're diagnosed with a chronic illness, you feel so alone. Like, I
Mm,
just remember being surrounded by so many people and yet feeling alone because at the end of the day, we have what they call choices. But they're not really choices, right? They're decisions. I didn't really have a
mhm.
choice really for chemo. Like, do you wanna die or do you wanna take chemo? Like,
Yeah.
I think that was a decision that I made. It wasn't really a choice. And so when you're somebody that so much of those choices are taken away from you, it can be really isolating and feel really alone. So when you can talk to someone that also had to make those hard choices as well, those hard decisions as well, um, I feel like it brings us together and it creates community. I tell a
Mhm.
lot of creators, if you're looking to build an audience, I'm not your girl. But if you're looking to build community, I can let you know, like, this is how we do
Mhm.
it, we just gotta be real
Yeah.
with one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I was diagnosed, I f felt like I couldn't carry the weight of other people's diagnosis
Mhm.
along with my own diagnosis. So support groups were really hard for me because I felt just such I don't know, deep empathy maybe for other people that it didn't lift me up. It brought me down. It made me sad and so I had to be really careful about which spaces that I entered. Have you heard anybody else
Yeah.
say that?
Oh, I was that. I was the most cynical, dark-humored person that you would have ever met when I was first diagnosed. I was like, "I am not going to a support group." That's n and then I did go to one, and it was a lot of older people, they were mostly white women, and I was like, "No one here is getting what I'm going through." I'm here with my
Right.
3-year-old daughter, an 8-year-old son, and I'm a Black woman who never got offered cold capping because they said, "Well, it doesn't, can't happen with your hair," or, there was different experiences that I was having that other people weren't, and so I said, "That's not for me. I don't wanna be around that." And then a lot of it felt like every meeting was like the cancer AA meeting. "Hi, my name is Asha. I had breast cancer at the age of 33, stage 3." Like, and then I'm like, I also wanna live. I'm still a
Yes.
girl, like, trying to live her life. And so for me was creating and finding those spaces that I can feel like myself, I can see myself, but it took a little bit and it took some pushing from 2 of my breasties, shout out to Bianca and Taylor, who came alongside me and they were like, "We're cynical too. We have dark humor too." And so we grew up, we had our own little group. And so sometimes it's just kind of finding your people and going
Yeah.
from there, because not every space is gonna feel like your space.
Mm. Right, and that's okay. Give yourself
Yeah,
permission. It's nothing wrong with you or the way that you're looking at it. It's
exactly,
just the way that it is. Hey, can you
exactly.
can you educate me a little bit? Why is it that my black and brown sisters are dying more frequently from breast
Yeah,
cancer?
yeah, so the statistics right now is we are diagnosed at a slightly, I just heard this more recently, higher rate than white women, but we are dying 40% more.
40.
40, and that is a statistic that is shocking to everyone. Especially because when you sit there and you think we're at the same spaces, some of them it's in the same demographics, in the same, with income rate, everything. And it's like, why? But I think one of the big things I talk about is education. In our communities, many times we don't want to talk about, hey, grandma had this thing or auntie had this cancer. Because first, I think across the board, the older generation, it was just not spoken about. We don't talk about
Mhm.
diseases and sicknesses. But I think, especially in Black and Brown communities, and I'm an immigrant from Trinidad, grew
Okay.
up, yep, grew up in New York City. And So in the immigrant population, I think even more so, we do not speak of illnesses, of sicknesses. We don't want to talk about it. And that is one thing that I'm determined to do. Our silence is killing us. And
Yeah.
so we have to start speaking about who had what and how we can prevent those things. The second thing, though, is very valid. It's also fear. The medical community has done so much wrong to the Black community in this country and across the board, across the world. But specifically in this country, when I was researching for an article that I did on this exact disparity and about medical bias, I cried in my bed when I read
Mhm.
story after story, Henrietta Lacks and all of the syphilis, epidemic and what they did to those Black men. It is heart-wrenching. And if you anybody listening, if you don't know these stories, look them up because it is part of our history to know these stories. And then we start to realize, well, of course, Black people don't want to, many people don't want to give any of our DNA or to go into clinical trials or anything because
Right.
we're scared. What are you going to do with my DNA?
Mhm.
So but now it's so much more protected and there's so many more steps, that they take to protect us. So it is okay for us to do these things. And so that's part of the education. But then there's a ton of other things. There's medical bias. I've had
Mhm.
that medical racism that stops us from getting the care we need. We're not believed when we are in pain. Just
Mhm.
recently, there was like the recent studies showed that a high majority of medical residents still, when they did a survey, believe that Black people do not feel pain as much as white people. And when you see those disparities, when you see that miseducation, when you see the ignorance that is still there, then there's no wonder that we're dying more. Because when
Mhm.
that's missed, when your doctor is not educated on who you are and sees you as a whole person, your race included, then that's a huge disparity that's happening, and that can cause a lot of harm.
Mhm. Thank you for giving us some things, some homework to do, some things to look
Yeah,
up,
for
and just some
sure.
education for here, for right now. Yeah.
Mhm.
So when we talk about cancer
Mm.
and you being diagnosed at age 33, can I ask how old you are right now? How long ago that
Yes,
was?
I am 42.
Oh, well done. Okay. So 9 years ago, right? And coming up on the 10-year anniversary mark. That's good. That's great. What did you lose and what did you gain in
Yeah.
from that journey?
Yeah, so it's so wild to think about that it's 9 years because I have literally only, had 2 years that I didn't have a medical procedure or surgery. So when I stopped, I was like, "Wait, I feel like it's not even been 1 year out of treatment." But it's 9 years since my diagnosis, but it's like, it's been such a long, long diagnosis, and that's something that I wish somebody would have told me when I was first diagnosed that breast
Mm.
cancer is a lifelong diagnosis. So many
Yeah.
times people are like, I thought if I put my head down, I just do my treatment in a year, I'm going to be done and it'll be over with. But recognizing that we are always kind of waiting for that next scan, waiting, holding our breath for that next thing, but we can't live in that fear. So we're also trying to live our best
Mhm.
life, our one precious life. So the things that I have, he said gained and learned, right? Or
Well, what did you lose and what did you
yeah,
find? What did you
yeah.
gain?
So lots of loss, I would say. When I was diagnosed, I found the bump myself. I call it a bump because I felt a half a centimeter little tiny bump, and it was more underneath like my armpit side of my breast. I was the healthiest I'd ever been because of a surgery that happened the year before. They were supposed to take a cyst off my uterus through my belly button, in and out. I've had 13 surgeries in my life now. And I started with a spinal fusion surgery at the age of 11, where I had to learn to walk and I almost died. And so pain has always been a part of my story. It's been a part of my body. It's been a part of my existence. And so when I woke up from that surgery, I said something is very wrong. And it was my mind and my body. And realizing, fast forwarding, they took one of my ovaries. It was not part of the plan, but it ended up happening. And because I think they were scared, honestly, of a lawsuit, they didn't really explain to me like what happened. And all I wanted to know was, can you just tell me what's wrong? Like something is wrong with me. I was so sad, and my feelings, my emotions, and I went into a severe depression. I had suicidal ideations. I kept my kids in the house. Could not let them out of my sight. And coming out of that, I found the gym, and I found my therapist, and I found a just like it was it's my sanctuary, the gym. It's really my
Mhm.
sanctuary. It has helped me body, mind, and soul. And so I went into the gym. I became a fitness instructor, which was like not on my bingo card at all. And 2 months after that, I was when I found the bump. So I'm sitting there, the healthiest ever, but more acutely aware of my body than ever.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, I've never felt this before. It's so tiny. And I don't know what it is. So I waited a couple months because I couldn't feel it when I went like this. I only felt it when I went like this. So I thought it had disappeared,
Mm.
which is very important when you're doing your breast exam, is to make sure you're rotating your arm. And then I hijacked my daughter's preschool appointment. And I said to our family doctor, can you just take a look at this bump here? And she said, sure. She touched it. She said, it's soft. If it was hard, I'd be concerned. But if you want, you can go for an ultrasound. I said, absolutely. Let's go for the ultrasound, put it behind
Good
me, and
for
move on.
you.
So
Yeah.
we went for the ultrasound. The ultrasound came back, and Nicole, they said, everything looks great. They said everything was fine. They said, we can't be 100% because, it's a scan, but we have no concerns. Like, if anything changes in 6 months, you can let us know. But it was the one thing she said. We can't be 100%. Even though she didn't say it with any hesitation, any fear, because of what happened the year before, I said, no, I need 100%, and then I'm going to move on, not thinking
Yep.
cancer. So I went into the biopsy, ultrasound guided. You can see everything. The doctor, who had been practicing 30 plus years, he's looking at it and he's telling me, I don't normally say this, but there's no fear. Like, there's no shadow. There's nothing that seems concerning. He said, I basically took the whole thing out. It was so tiny with the biopsy. I said, okay. I took a selfie like this. I had pictures of the instruments that were on the table. And I sent it to my mom, and I'm like, she was on the trip of her lifetime for her 60th birthday in Paris and Italy with my dad. And I said,
Um,
okay, we'll wait for the results, but I am not worried at all. But 2 days later, on September 28th, 2017, at 8 o'clock in the morning, because he was so shocked, that same doctor called me himself and told me over the phone that I had breast cancer. Right
mm,
before I put my 8-year-old son on the bus while my 3-year-old was running around playing in the house. It was as if my body just became a shell, and like I left her, and I kept looking
mhm.
down like, "Oh, that poor girl. That's crazy that she has cancer. It's not me.
Yeah.
It's her."
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
know?
goodness it's not
And now
me.
I
Yeah.
understand
Right.
that disconnect, right? You're just like,
Right.
"This is absolutely not happening." It was so disconnected that for the 3 days or the 2 days that I had to wait for my first appointment, I literally kept second guessing what I heard on the phone. I kept saying, well, maybe I heard wrong. I'm probably scaring my family because there's really nothing wrong with me. I am not sick at all. But it was. And the craziest part is, as time went on, we realized that it had already spread outside my breast to my lymph nodes. It was already calcified across my chest wall. So I'm missing part of my pectoral muscle. So that was a loss. I think it
Mhm.
was the loss of trusting my body that was the hardest loss,
Mhm.
because I had just begun to trust her after, not trusting her since I was 11 years old and had severe
Yeah.
scoliosis and had that surgery. So I just was like, oh my goodness, I feel strong. I feel
Mhm.
powerful. I had actually scheduled a photo shoot right before I was diagnosed. And I told this lady, I said, I know moms don't get photo shoots, but I feel so strong. Do you think I can get one?"
Yes.
She's like, "Absolutely." I called her a week and a half later and I said, "I just got diagnosed with breast cancer. So we're gonna do that photo shoot, but it's gonna be a little different." And it is still to this day one of the most powerful photo shoots, and not because of the strong poses one, but it's because I have one where I slid down the wall in tears and my mom was holding me in that photo. And it was coming to the realization that strength is going to look different in this season. It's not always going to look like chin up, shoulders back, muscles. It's going to also look like vulnerability and rawness. And that is, I think, as I'm talking to you, I think that's one of the main reasons why I show up the way I do is because that's where we are. We are humans, and that rawness is and that vulnerability is really what helps us to see each other, I think, and to be able to
Mhm.
understand each other. Because when I see your realness, I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, now I can be real too, you know?
Mhm. That's right,
So,
right. People's vulnerability opens it up for the next person, and I don't know, I feel like what we hide inside is, what eats us up. What we can bring out and share with others is where we find that community, and it's where we realize kindness will show up for us, and we won't be alone, even though when you're on that cliff between, like, "Do I share or do I not share?" It can feel like if I share, I will be so alone.
yeah, yeah,
And now you are having to do this all over again with vitiligo, which explain
yeah,
to people what that is
yeah,
and what's happening right now.
yeah. So, backing up just a little, when I had my surgeries, the amputation of my breasts, I didn't really have to face it at first because I had the implants. But then I got the implants in, and 4 months later found out that they were recalled for causing another kind of cancer. And that for me was
Oh.
like the beginning of, okay, it was like somebody took my shoulders and shook it and was like, "You have got to learn to love this body no matter what it looks like," because I was deflated chest. I called it my raisins in the pudding. It was because I literally just I know.
I love it. It's a great visual. Thanks.
It was for me, I was like, I had nipple sparing surgery. There was no flat closure. It was just a deflated chest. And I'm like, this is not beautiful. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to say, this is not okay. This is not beautiful. And I think that is the beginning of us having that radical body love that we really want to have, is the honesty in it. Because if I'm looking at something that's not beautiful and I'm like, "It's beautiful. I love you." I'm just lying to myself. It's the state of denial. But if I can just be like, "I accept you. You're not at all what I wanted." And so 3 weeks after that explant surgery, I was asked to walk in New York Fashion Week. And I'm standing there on that stage in front of thousands of people with a bra, underwear, fishnet stockings, knee-high boots, and everyone is screaming and clapping and no breaths. The girl who went to the pool with an oversized t-shirt most of her life because of the long scar down her back and on her hip. And I looked at my daughter, my North Star, and I said, if I start speaking to myself in unhealthy and unkind, right, ways, then she's also going to speak to herself unkindly. And that
Mm.
just switched everything for me. And that for me, when I heard about your podcast and what you do, it's the kindness to myself that was revolutionary. And then pouring kindness to others. When I could say, okay, Ash, you are not going to reconstruct until you can be kind to this body, because then no implant, no reconstruction is ever going to be good enough. And so I stayed 4 years flat and I felt so sexy. And that's when I met my partner that I have for the last over 2 years. He met me completely flat, and I'm like, of course I'm cute. I mean, why wouldn't you want to
Yes.
date me? And so when I was that confident and I realized, you know what though, I still do though want reconstruction. And not because I think I'm lacking really, but because I kind of want to wear certain clothes and I kind of want to see myself in a different way. So I did do deep flap surgery a year and a half ago, and I love it. I still sometimes miss the flatness because there was, it was me for many, many years, but there was that love for my body and speaking kindly. So when all of
Mm.
that happened and I did this revolution, right, of my body, this, oh my goodness, I love how I look. I'm, scars and everything. And then I noticed a spot on my foot. And I thought, did I drop oil on my foot and I didn't know? Like, I thought it was a burn. I didn't know what was happening. And then it got bigger and whiter and whiter. And then I started to see it on my hands. And then I was like, what is going on with my fingers around my nails? Um, and so I finally went when a spot I saw like down between my legs. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I need to like make sure that everything's okay because skin cancer also runs in our family, not just breast cancer. So I went to the dermatologist and I said, I'm nervous. I'd like to know what's going on. And not okay. She walked in with a light. She said, open up. She said, "Oh, yep, it's vitiligo. I used to have pamphlets about it, but I don't. You should Google it." All right, I think I have another patient, and she left. And that just devastated me. When we are not kind, I think, to other people, we don't
Mhm.
realize the impact that our unkindness can have. And that stunted me. I did not even try to look at anything. I kind of wiped that out of my mind. I broke down crying in that moment. And then I picked myself up and said, that actually didn't happen because that's too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
And not until more spots really started to appear that I have to come face to face with, Ash, you have vitiligo and it is really affecting your mental health. And I would break down looking at my hands, and I would break down looking at my skin on my legs. But it's interesting, I didn't think about this until this very moment, but you, had said one of the questions for me to think of was a kindness story. And I have
Mhm.
so many, but I just thought the day I met you at that conference, that was actually one of the most pivotal moments in my love for my vitiligo, where I started to think, okay, I think maybe I can do this. I was sitting in a session, and you were actually one of the people in that session that was speaking. And after I raised my hand to answer a question in the front, and after that session, a woman came up to me and she said, I just want to tell you, you have such beautiful hands. And she was so far back, I knew she couldn't see the vitiligo maybe on my hands. So she was just talking about my hands. And
Mhm.
she was like, "Look at your hands. Your fingers are so long and beautiful." And I broke down crying. And I said, "I have been trying to hide my hands because they're just being overrun with vitiligo, and I just don't find beauty in it right now." And she just held my hand and she said, "It is so beautiful." And that moment, it was everything. I told her, her kind word, you never know. And I went and I shared it with my Instagram as well that day. And I said, we never know what the kindness that we say to others, how that will impact them. And that has impacted me deeply, that the kindness that she said to me, now I can say those words to myself. Now I can
Mhm.
repeat that over myself. And that kindness can heal. It literally can heal. And I don't think that we realize our words, the power that we have to help others heal.
Yeah. I wanna rewind, a minute
Mhm.
to your moment in the doctor's office,
Mm.
because sometimes I feel like people say, "I'm kind. I'm not unkind. I about my day. I do my job. I never say anything rude to someone." And I would imagine that that doctor didn't walk out of that room thinking that she had been unkind. So to kind of take that moment and spread it
Mm.
out for people and just stretch it out a little bit. I don't know, like when we talk about kindness, it's not necessarily an act that we do. It is not something we put on our calendar like, "Oh, I'm gonna go and do this, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do this thing." It's showing up with a posture, to me at least, it's showing up
Mm.
with a posture that slows down enough just to say, I'm here for you, and to really
Mm,
see that person in front of you and what might they need in this moment. And if you don't know, to ask, just to stop for 1 second and say, "What do you need from me? What can I do right now to be of service to you?" W What about for you? What would
mm.
kindness look like in a day-to-day action like that?
Yeah, it's so much of what you just said, the slowing down and the seeing of others, and that is something that when I have those experiences, it reinforces my drive, my passion, my empathy to make sure that I slow down and really listen to others. Sometimes it gets me in trouble because I'm standing, they're just like listening to so many stories when I'm like, "Oh,
Yes.
maybe I should be over there." But I never regret it. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, like sitting there and listening to somebody who obviously wants to be heard in that moment, um, it's a kindness that I think we sometimes overpass and we just say, "Oh, it's just a person," I'm looking down at my phone but I make it a purpose, like when I walk into the gym or when I walk into a grocery store, that I'm looking around and really looking at people's eyes. The
Mhm.
amount of people that smile at me, that say hello to me, that are really super kind to me. My daughter's always like, "Do you know that person? Mom, who's that? Who is that?" And I'm like, "I don't know." But my friends called it my resting kind face, actually. I was like, I don't know. I was just like, "Hello, hello." But we don't realize how much that really helps, to
Yeah.
be, as you said, in that posture of looking and actually seeing the people around us. We have such busy lives that we're like, "Oh, we're at the grocery store. Let me just get this." But it takes just a moment to look at that person across there and give them a smile and say good morning or good afternoon or, "Man, the weather, right? It's a beautiful day out there. Finally, there's no snow."
Yes.
And it just changes a person's demeanor, their day. It's wild how that simple act of kindness can go such a long way.
I dig that you said that. I forgot that I have taught workshops before about how to draw more kindness and how to get people to be kind to you, like 5 ways to get people to be kind to
Yeah.
you. And, like, it's so simplistic because the way that you get people to be kind to you is to have a resting kind face, right? And just to smile a little bit, to make eye
Yeah.
contact, like, people aren't as scary as we give them credit for being. And
Yeah.
the other thing I've had people say, "Well, I don't wanna get caught up in a conversation because I really don't have time," and so, I remember as a hospital chaplain, sometimes I would walk into a room if I knew, like, somebody or, I was going to walk into a room and I was in the hallway, but I wanted to check in on somebody, I'd say, "Listen, I have 15 minutes before I need to be at my next place, but I really wanted to check in on you." And that kinda sets some
Mhm.
perimeters for, here's how long, I've got, like, or if I answer the phone, like, "I have only got 7 minutes, but I really want to hear your voice, so talk to me."
I should have
It
gotten your tips earlier because I just implemented that, like, literally last week. I
Good,
yes,
yes!
it's like, "Okay, yes, definitely. I actually only have 20 minutes now." I did go 30 because I'm like, "Ash, boundaries." But I did set a limit, and it was shorter than I would have. So that's such great advice. Yes.
Yeah. So, Asha, I mean, I have like 2 more pages full of things that I want to talk to you about, but we are running out of time. I want to know what you want to tell us today.
Mhm.
What is it that I've not asked? What is it we've not talked about that you are
Mhm.
like, Nicole, I really want
Yeah.
this to be out there, and take as much time as you need.
I think that strangely enough, the thing that popped to the top of my mind was not at all what I was ever going to speak on here about, but um, it's about my divorce. So during my cancer treatment, I did get divorced to my ex-husband and I were married for 18 years. And that was, I mean, a majority of my life. It was my
Right.
whole growing up life. I was a baby when we got married. And so during that time, I feel like, especially as you go through so much changes in your life, there's there's just so much that changes within you when you get diagnosed with breast cancer. And during that, I share a lot on my Instagram about our family now and how we still do family vacations and we still, do things together and co-parent. And it's not
It's
easy.
wild. It's
And it's not
wild to hear you talk about it.
it's and especially because now I do have a new partner and I actually have never said it out loud on my Instagram. I just kind of insinuate like, "Hey, here's his hand." Because it's a lot. Here's my hard launch, I guess, I am dating. And, for me, during that transition, between, okay, I'm a wife, this person has seen me all through. I mean, you're married, you kinda have to just kinda take it now. I mean, this is me.
Yeah.
To dating when you are breastless and scarred and you've had so many changes. But I feel like there was a lot more confidence too, because I'm like, listen, cancer's gonna change you, right? It's gonna be like,
Right.
"This is who I am, and I face death now, so come at me." And
Yeah.
so going out there and scrolling through profiles and trying to figure out, "Okay, what am I doing with this one beautiful life, and do I want a partner, and what do you tell your partner?" There was a lot of that was, I think, my hugest kindness. I don't even know what word it is. Situation, event, maybe is the right word.
Yeah.
Because it was learning to be kind to my ex-partner, my kid's father, finding out kindness trumps all when you have two beautiful children, you want the best for them. But then also learning to be kind to myself as I went and I sought out a new partner and saying, okay, like this is who I am and it's okay. And stop making
Mhm.
apologies for not having breasts or not, remembering everything because of chemo brain or
Yes.
or whatever it is. And I think sometimes for those of us, whether it's cancer, whether it's motherhood, whether it's whatever that, has really drastically changed our lives, um, is being kind in those transitions. It's not always easy. And that's the first thing I thought of when you said, what do you want to say? Kindness is not always easy.
Mm.
And that's the thing I've learned in this season. It's in not speaking when maybe I want to say something. It's in
Yes.
speaking in kind ways when I want to say what I want to say passionately. I am a Trinidadian. I use my hands when I talk. My voice goes up. But I'm like, you can say it kinder. Um, and then the transition into a new partner and bring that person into this established family that's a little bit Brady Bunchish, and just like there's takes a lot of kindness from me, from him, from all of us. And we're teaching our kids that kindness is not easy, but it's worth it. And that is for me
Mm.
the biggest lesson I'm learning in this season is that it's worth it to be kind because the beauty that's now in our family, yeah, everybody's like, this is so weird. I'm like, it is. It's only weird because it's just not conventional. We don't do this, but we can. We can. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
You are showing people what they can do in so many areas, in every area of your life. And it's
Mm.
just precious because it is just emanating from who you naturally are and what life is throwing at you. And wow, it's amazing. Asha
Oh,
Miller, thank you for talking with us today. Give everybody your Instagram. I'll also put it in the show notes, but where do you want people to find you?
yes. So my Instagram is Dear Cancer underscore it's me. So it's because a little play on my writing when I first started, it was just all, and it is still all about the writing. So dear
Mhm.
cancer underscore it's me.
Thanks for reminding us that kindness isn't, oh, it's not about pretending everything's okay. And it's about telling the truth and staying open and choosing to be
Hmm.
kind anyway, choosing love anyway.
Hmm.
Listener, if this conversation meant something to you, please share it with somebody who might need it. And if you are walking through something hard right now, please know you are not alone. And remember, what you look for is what you'll see.